The Crew 2 is now almost 3 years old, and since launch it's changed a lot through updates. In fact, it's still changing now and getting new content through regular patches, which is pretty impressive, and it's not the only thing this game has going for it. In this review, we'll take a look at all the content it has to offer, to see whether it's worth your money in 2021. Also, if you do have any questions about this game, then just drop them down in the comments section and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Now first I want to talk about what is arguably the biggest selling point for this game, and that's its racing diversity. To just call this a driving game or a racing game is a massive understatement due to the sheer amount of content when it comes to vehicles and events. There are currently 409 vehicles, although this is still growing through updates. And also, notice that I said vehicles there because there's everything from hovercrafts to speedboats and even monster trucks here. As far as racing disciplines go, well, there's a lot, so here goes. There's street racing, drift trials, drag racing, hypercar races, rally raid, motocross, rallycross, hovercraft races, aerobatic events, air races, demolition derby, jet sprint races, monster truck skills, powerboat races, touring car races, and Alpha Grand Prix races. I don't think that's even all of them, but hopefully you get the idea. The sheer amount of content is honestly just amazing, and there's so much to do no matter what you're into, whether that be off-road, aerobatics, or just normal street racing. The only downside to having so much content here is that, understandably, not as much time can be spent perfecting each class, and each vehicle within that class. This means that handling, while it's fine, is not great, and neither are vehicle sounds. It's quite easy to tell that the same sound and handling models are being shared, most notably within the cars, although at the end of the day I believe this is absolutely worth the trade-off, as the vehicle diversity is something unrivaled by any other game of the genre. In fact, the closest thing I can think of is GTA 5, and that's not really a fair comparison. Another feature unrivaled by any other game is this quick swap mechanic, which allows you to pretty much instantaneously switch between your favourite vehicle for land, air and water. This adds a huge amount of freedom when you're playing in free roam, which is made even better by the map, which we'll take a look at now. Now, with such a huge variety of vehicles, a really good map was needed to bring them all together and just make everything work, and it's fair to say that Ubisoft have absolutely delivered. The map is based off the entire of the USA, and while it isn't a one-to-one scale as it's been very cleverly condensed, it'll still take you about 40 minutes to drive across, so it's still huge. This means there's loads of space for all sorts of landscapes, from massive cities like New York to desert sand dunes. There's all sorts of Easter eggs and cool locations too, with everything from Area 51 to stunt parks and the Kennedy Space Center. This makes road trips and just exploring with friends or even by yourself just so much fun. The huge map also has an effect on the events. In some games like Need for Speed or Forza Horizon, events do start to feel a bit samey, as you've pretty much seen it all in terms of the map after a good few hours. The Crew 2, however, is a completely different story, as when you go from winding through the mountains on a Harley Davidson to driving a boat down the Grand Canyon, it feels like you're playing two completely different games. Ubisoft have tried to utilise this through the Live Extreme event series, which are races where you switch vehicles twice throughout the event. These can be a lot of fun, however they pay no more than a normal race in terms of credits, and there aren't that many of them, so there's definitely a lot of missed opportunity here. A pretty significant event type which has been added recently are the new Motorflix events. In these events you're working for a film company on an action movie. You play as a cop car and the aim is to take out the criminals. Now, I did at first really like this unique style of event. However, when you take a step back, it all feels a bit too random, at least for me. This particular update also came with the Motor Pass, a Battle Pass style reward system where you can earn cars and other items. Personally, I'm in two minds about this, as while it's a very good motive to complete the Motorflix events, there is an optional premium package which you will have to acquire if you want all of the rewards. You don't have to pay for it, as you can earn the credits in game, although this takes so long that most people just will, and for a game that you've already had to pay for, I'm really not a big fan of this. Talking about credits, let's take a look at the progression. Many have criticised the economy in this game as being broken and saying that vehicles are too expensive, although I don't agree. While yes, a Bugatti Divo will take most people up to a week or more to save up for, This is what makes buying one so rewarding. When you acquire a new vehicle, it really feels like you've taken a massive step up, both in terms of performance but also just general game progression. Another area where progression has been managed very well is within the ultimate vehicles. Now, there are 4 main racing families in the game, which cover a few disciplines each. If you can complete 50% or more of the events within a family, you unlock a rival event. This is one long event which features multiple vehicles from the family, and if you win it, you earn the ultimate vehicle, which for street racing is a McLaren P1, for pro racing it's an Aston Martin Vulcan, for the freestyle family you get a hovercraft, and off-road rewards you with a freaking helicopter. These events provide a huge motive to keep playing the game and also give newer players more long-term goals, which is necessary to stop them getting bored. And that's another thing I should mention, because while I've played quite a few hours of this game, yeah, just a couple, and I'm at a pretty late stage of it, I can still easily get back into it as there's so much I haven't done, which is helped considerably by the fact that updates are just so regular. Now, what about customization? Well, there's some pretty decent character options which have also been revised in recent updates, although it's the car customization which really stands out, or at least half of it does. I'll explain in a minute. Physical customization is amazing. There are absolutely tons of options to play with, and you can even change the colour and design of the interior, which is something that's very rare to come across, and it's also great if you like playing in cockpit view, which this game does have, by the way, for all the vehicles. Now, I said that half of the customization is good, because performance is very poor. To upgrade the performance of your car, you have to rely on a rather luck-based loot system. You can't do anything like install turbos or engine swap, instead you just get a part with a better number on it. Performance does improve drastically from a stock car to a fully upgraded one, although you never really notice because you're constantly just swapping parts for ones with higher numbers on them. There's just no depth behind it. Another element of the game where there's definitely some missed potential is the multiplayer. Public matchmaking was actually absent at the game's launch, which is never a great sign, and while it has since been added, it's a pretty small portion of the game. Finding a race is usually pretty quick, well under a minute, although when you are racing, everyone is permanently in ghost mode. Now, while this does mean that you're never going to get shunted off the road, it almost feels like your competitors aren't even there, and I would have much preferred a dynamic ghosting system like that in Forza Horizon 4 or GT Sport. This does, however, only apply to the street race and hypercar online events, although those are the most popular and therefore easiest to find a game for. In terms of the more co-op style multiplayer though, this game does at least do a very good job of it. You can easily invite friends to your crew and they're automatically invited whenever you enter a race. There will also be random players in the map at the same time as you, usually about 5 or 6, which is a shame because with this big of a map it could have been a lot of fun if there were a ton more players around. Another topic that's usually pretty big for arcade racing games are the graphics. It's fair to say that the developers have taken a quantity over quality approach, which I really don't blame them for, as filling a map of this size is no easy task. Relative to something like Forza Horizon 4, if I'm honest, it's just not even close. Even Need for Speed Heat blows us out the water in quite a lot of areas. Textures are just not there in terms of detail, and while reflections of cars are solid, especially on PC, the general polygon count and also originality of game assets, especially in terms of buildings, is just meh. Having said this, I believe Ubisoft has done a very good job considering the map size, and aspects that really matter for this particular game, such as lighting and city design, have been done very well. Talking about lighting, this game features dynamic time and weather. There's a day-night cycle, and in terms of weather, there's everything from snow to heavy rain, which really adds nicely to the immersion factor. Overall, The Crew 2 is a pretty one-of-a-kind experience, if I'm honest. It's rare to get such amazing freedom and such massive amounts of content in a reasonably polished package, in this genre, but in any game really, although that's exactly what The Crew 2 does. While it does have its downfalls, such as a loot-based upgrading system, not the greatest graphics, and a multiplayer system that could be just so much better, I can easily recommend this game to pretty much everyone, especially if you're into the likes of Forza or Need for Speed. All the negative points are made up for in other areas, and another great thing about this game is that because it's reasonably old, deals are quite easy to come by, so you can easily get it for under $20 or pounds in the US and UK respectively. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you have found it useful, then a like or even a sub would be absolutely amazing. But that's everything, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.